wonder. SDPB. When South Dakotans need reliable information, SDPB is there providing updates and coverage that keep our communities safe and connected. Good, useful, and full of wonder. SDPB. SDPB celebrates South Dakota's student athletes with live coverage of SDHSAA state championships, sharing the excitement of hometown heroes. SDPB, good, useful, and full of wonder. From choir to debate to theater, SDPB shines a spotlight on South Dakota's talented students through SDHSAA All-State Fine Arts programming. Good, useful, and full of wonder. SDPB. Every day, SDPB connects South Dakotans with stories that inform, inspire, and bring us together. SDPB, good, useful, and full of wonder. SDPB is your home for fact-based journalism, connecting South Dakotans with news they can trust and stories that matter. Good, useful, and full of wonder. SDPB. From children's programs to in-depth documentaries, SDPB sparks curiosity and lifelong learning in every South Dakotan. SDPB. Good, useful, and full of wonder. SDPB brings South Dakotans together, telling the stories that unite small towns, big ideas, and the people who make our state shine. Good, useful, and full of wonder. SDPB. SDPB shares the voices and experiences of South Dakotans, preserving our stories, our culture, and our sense of place. SDPB, good, useful, and full of wonder. As South Dakota's public media network, SDPB serves everyone with transparency, integrity, and commitment to open access. Good, useful, and full of wonder. SDPB. SDPB helps shape South Dakota's future by educating, informing, and inspiring the next generation of thinkers, leaders, and creators. SDPB. Good, useful, and full of wonder. SDPB serves South Dakota through an interconnected communication system that is on 24/7, 365. The first place for Amber Alerts, public safety announcements, and EAS messages. SDPB keeps public servants and citizens informed. Good, useful, and full of wonder. SDPB. SDPB brings you closer to your government. With gavel-to-gavel coverage of the South Dakota Legislature and in-depth reporting from Pierre. Good, useful, and full of wonder. SDPB. From early learners to lifelong students, SDPB inspires curiosity through trusted educational programs and resources for every stage of life. Good, useful, and full of wonder. SDPB. When South Dakotans need reliable information, SDPB is there providing updates and coverage that keep our communities safe and connected. Good, useful, and full of wonder. SDPB. SDPB celebrates South Dakota's student athletes with live coverage of SDHSAA state championships, sharing the excitement of hometown heroes. SDPB. Good, useful, and full of wonder. From choir to debate to theater, SDPB shines a spotlight on South Dakota's talented students through SDHSAA All-State Fine Arts programming. Good, useful, and full of wonder. SDPB. Every day, SDPB connects South Dakotans with stories that inform, inspire, and bring us together. SDPB, good, useful, and full of wonder. SDPB is your home for fact-based journalism, connecting South Dakotans with news they can trust and stories that matter. Good, useful, and full of wonder. SDPB. From children's programs to in-depth documentaries, SDPB sparks curiosity and lifelong learning in every South Dakotan. SDPB. Good, useful, and full of wonder. SDPB brings South Dakotans together, telling the stories that unite small towns, big ideas, and the people who make our state shine. Good, useful, and full of wonder. SDPB. SDPB shares the voices and experiences of South Dakotans, preserving our stories, our culture, and our sense of place. SDPB, good, useful, and full of wonder. As South Dakota's public media network, SDPB serves everyone with transparency, integrity, and commitment to open access. Good, useful, and full of wonder. SDPB. SDPB helps shape South Dakota's future by educating, informing, and inspiring the next generation of thinkers, leaders, and creators. SDPB. Good, useful, and full of wonder. SDPB serves South Dakota through an interconnected communication system that is on 24/7, 365. The first place for Amber Alerts, public safety announcements, and EAS messages. SDPB keeps public servants and citizens informed. Good, useful, and full of wonder. SDPB. SDPB brings you closer to your government. With gavel-to-gavel coverage of the South Dakota Legislature and in-depth reporting from Pierre. Good, useful, and full of wonder. SDPB. From early learners to lifelong students, SDPB inspires curiosity through trusted educational programs and resources for every stage of life. Good, useful, and full of wonder. SDPB. When South Dakotans need reliable information, SDPB is there providing updates and coverage that keep our communities safe and connected. Good, useful, and full of wonder. SDPB. SDPB celebrates South Dakota's student athletes with live coverage of SDHSAA state championships, sharing the excitement of hometown heroes. SDPB, good, useful, and full of wonder. From choir to debate to theater, SDPB shines a spotlight on South Dakota's talented students through SDHSAA All-State Fine Arts programming. Good, useful, and full of wonder. SDPB. Every day, SDPB connects South Dakotans with stories that inform, inspire, and bring us together. SDPB, good, useful, and full of wonder. SDPB is your home for fact-based journalism, connecting South Dakotans with news they can trust and stories that matter. Good, useful, and full of wonder. SDPB. From children's programs to in-depth documentaries, SDPB sparks curiosity and lifelong learning in every South Dakotan. SDPB. Good, useful, and full of wonder.
Good afternoon, everybody. Welcome back to State Affairs, another great afternoon session. I would ask everyone to please take your seat and have your phones turned to silent. I always check my own whenever I do that. If you plan on testifying today, please sign in at the back of the room with the pages. And if you have handouts, please give them to the pages to distribute them up here to the committee members. If you're a lobbyist, please make sure you're wearing a badge and that the badge is clearly visible. And if you're wearing a hat, we ask you remove that when you testify. Welcome to those of you joining us online. If you need to contact us, the email is housestateaffairs@sdlegislature.gov. Finally, a reminder that all testimony and questions should be addressed through the chair. At this time, I would ask the secretary to please call the roll.
Representative Baummuller.
Here.
Emery. Here. Gosh.
Here.
Hanson. Excused. Healy.
Here.
Heineman excused. Jameson.
Here.
Lems. Here. May. Here. Reich excused. Schaefbauer.
Here.
Overweg.
Here.
Odenbach.
Here.
We have a quorum, Mr. Chairman.
Thank you, Madam Secretary. We have a quorum. At this time, the chair will entertain a motion to approve the minutes of the last meeting.
Mr. Chair. Make that motion.
Motion
Move
by
that motion.
Overweg, seconded by Gosh. Those in favor of approving the minutes would please say aye. Aye. Those opposed, no. The minutes are approved. At this time, I would ask the pages to please come up to the microphones to introduce yourselves, state where you're from, and briefly mention any future plans. That would include you too. You can go second. Okay, go ahead.
My name is Grant Cutler. I live in Claremont. We're just out of Claremont on a small town. I'm a senior in high school, and I'll be joining the Air Force in July.
What are you going to do in the Air Force, Mr. Cutler?
I'll be doing aerospace ground equipment.
Excellent. You're up.
Mr. Pins.
If you need a pen, he's got some.
Oh, I do. I'm CJ Moses. I'm from Pierre. I go to Tia Fricks High School. I'm a senior right now, and I'm going to South Dakota School of Mines and Technology to major in engineering. I have not decided yet, but maybe probably computer engineering.
Okay, so a couple announcements on the agenda, maybe a couple of personal privileges, then we'll jump into the bills. So we've got 4 bills to consider this afternoon. We are going to do them in a bit of a scrambled order from what might have been published online. We're going to start this afternoon with HB 1237, and then we're going to do 1230 second, HB 1256 third, and 1324 last. We will allocate 12 minutes aside for proponent and opponent testimony because we've got a lot of stuff to get through today. Does anybody on the committee have any personal privileges or announcements? Okay, well, I have two. I have 2 friends from Lawrence County, Maida Halverson and Kristen Matsuda, who are great Americans and are here watching the committee. Please welcome them to State Affairs. Okay, then with that, let's jump into our first bill for consideration today, HB 1237, require age verification before an individual may access an application from an online application store, publicly available website, electronic service, or other online platform. Welcome, Representative Weems.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman, members of the committee. Carrie Weems, State Representative, District 11 in Sioux Falls. I'll be really brief, and this might give you all some time back. I brought this bill for an organization. They have gotten behind another bill that's age verification that is moving forward. And so I would respectfully ask you to table this bill at this time.
Thank you, Representative Overweg.
I will move that motion.
Motion by Overweg, seconded by, let's say, Baummuller. I believe I heard her say to table House Bill 1237. This is a non-debatable motion, so all those in favor of table will say aye. Those no. The secretary will please call the roll.
Representative Baummuller.
Aye.
Emery.
Aye.
Gosh. Hanson excused. Healy.
Aye.
Heineman excused. Jamison.
Aye.
Lems.
Aye.
May. Reich excused. Schaefbauer.
Aye.
Overweg.
Aye.
Odenbach.
Aye.
10 ayes, 3 excused.
Thank you, Madam Secretary. After receiving a majority of members-elect, the motion to table 1237 passes. House Bill 1237 is tabled. With that, we will move on to our next item up for business, House Bill 1230, modify requirements for payment of the employer's investment in South Dakota's future fee. 12 minutes for proponent, 12 minutes for opponent. Welcome Representative Lems for proponent testimony.
Thank you, Mr. Chair, members of the committee. My name is Representative Carla Lems from District 16. So I bring to you today House Bill 1230. It's about something very simple. It's about choice and transparency for South Dakota employers. So under our current law, the employer's investment in South Dakota's future fee is applied automatically unless an employer navigates a process to stop it. Many small employers have told us they either didn't fully understand it, were unaware they were contributing, or assumed it was a mandatory tax. For some, the first time they noticed it was when reviewing detailed payroll reports. That lack of clarity is part of the problem. House Bill 1230 does not eliminate the program. It does not prohibit participation. It does not dismantle workforce development. What it does is shift the structure from automatic participation to voluntary participation. If an employer sees value in contributing, they can opt in. If they don't, they can opt out. There will be no penalties, no retroactive games, just clarity. South Dakota has long prided itself on limited mandates and employer freedom. This bill reinforces that tradition. It recognizes that workforce development already happens every single day through private investment, training, apprenticeships, and job creation, and that not every employer is situated the same way. Large corporations may absorb fees easily. Small rural businesses feel them immediately. House Bill 1230 restores consent and trust. Employers should knowingly choose where their dollars will go. If a program is valuable, employers will support it voluntarily. And if participation must be compelled to sustain it, that is something we should all examine honestly. This bill is not anti-workforce. It is pro-transparency. It is pro-small business. And it is consistent with South Dakota's economic philosophy. So I respectfully ask for your support.
Thank you, Representative Lems. Is there any other proponent testimony for House Bill 1230? Okay, anybody online? No? Okay, hearing no other proponent, then we'll switch over to opponent testimony. Is there any opponent testimony here in the room?
Good afternoon, Mr. Chair, committee members. My name is Marcia Holtman, and I am the Secretary of the Department of Labor and Regulation. And I'm here today to respectfully ask you to oppose House Bill 1230. Why does the Department of Labor and Regulation care about this bill? We care for multiple reasons. One is we have benefited from the workforce development programs that have helped our citizens gain new skills. But more importantly today, we care because our Reemployment Assistance Division, currently known as Unemployment Insurance, is responsible for the mechanism that collects future fund revenue from employers. This process relies on an extremely outdated mainframe system, which is costly and difficult to modify. DLR would be tasked with collecting and maintaining the opt-in or out status for 35,000 plus employers in the state, and sending customized tax summaries to each employer based on their status. This requirement affects multiple layers of our mainframe system and necessitates new functions that are not currently in existence. Due to a lack of programmers available with mainframe experience, outside contractors would be sought. Any enhancements to the mainframe are compared to shifting the Titanic. It's not an easy or straightforward task to make these edits. Well, we are currently working diligently to move all components of our RI system off the mainframe. Adding the requirements of this bill would impact our priorities by diverting attention to this mandate, delaying our ability to make progress in other areas. Adding an opt-in or opt-out functionality to this system may seem simple. However, it is estimated to require about 5,000 developer hours, extensive amounts of staff time, and will cost approximately $525,000. This bill also creates an ongoing postage cost for quarterly mailings until employers decide to opt in or opt out of this. Again, with almost 35,000 employees in the state, this would initially cost $27 per quarter. These expenses are not allowed under our DLR federal funding, nor do we have the budget authority to cover these costs. For these reasons, I urge you to oppose House Bill 1230, and I would stand by for questions. Thank you.
Thank you, Secretary Holtman. Any other opponents?
Mr. Chair, members of the committee, my name is Joe Fiala, Deputy Commissioner at the Governor's Office of Economic Development. I come before you today to oppose HB 1230. Created in 1987 by Governor Mickelson, the Future Fund has assisted with economic development and research in numerous ways. From infrastructure improvements to research projects, from workforce development to career and technical education, the Future Fund has improved the business environment for South Dakota businesses. I do have a handout here. It's a map. The map being handed out shows the locations of the Future Fund awards since its inception. There have been 1,697 awards reaching every corner of the state. About 1 in 5 awards have a statewide impact, helping businesses and citizens all across South Dakota. One of the best examples is the Build South Dakota Scholarship Program. Over the years, this program, which is focused on South Dakota's technical colleges, has provided a full-ride scholarship to approximately 3,000 students. These students must then work in South Dakota for a minimum of 3 years. The trades businesses, large and small, get a trained workforce, which is a huge benefit. The citizens also benefit because they need the services provided by these businesses and graduates. This has been a wildly successful program helping many businesses in South Dakota, large and small, as well as regular South Dakotans. This is just one example of the power of the Future Fund, and there are so many more. Since the beginning of the program, business owners have been willing to pay a relatively small fee to provide the revenue for the fund. In return, they realize the benefits from the economic development and research projects that have been accomplished. Again, a prime example is the Build Dakota Scholarship Fund. This bill would greatly diminish the power of the Future Fund and thereby greatly diminish the benefit it has provided to so many businesses and citizens in South Dakota. I would urge your no vote on HB 1230. Thank you, and I'll stand by for questions.
Thank you, sir. Any other opponent testimony?
Good afternoon, Mr. Chair, members of the committee. Mike Bockerny, CEO of the Economic Development Professionals Association of South Dakota. Thank you for the opportunity to be here. I would first just like to me too all of the comments that Deputy Commissioner Fiala just made, and also the comments that Secretary Holtman made. But I want to point out potentially one other item here too. About this bill, we feel that it might be setting a potentially dangerous precedent. We're really talking about providing an opt-in or opt-out, however you want to frame it, on a tax which has been imposed. I feel that we might be going down the road of providing this option on other taxes as well. I'm sure the response from the proponent is going to be something about many businesses in our state are opposed to government-sponsored economic development, so they should be able to choose to opt out if they want to. However, we would contend that this legislature hears from numerous citizens and groups about their philosophical opposition to countless taxes, fees, tax exemption, and other funding mechanisms as well. For example, in the last 2 years, many South Dakotans have objected to the concept of property taxes or pushed for schools, counties, and cities to be slashed. They have described these objections as philosophical. If you let one group get to opt out based on their philosophical position, we contend that you might be emboldening all the other groups to request the same. We ask you to defeat this bill. Thank you.
Thank you, sir. Any other opponents? We're about 7 minutes in.
Good morning, Mr. Chairman, members of the committee. Ryan Budmar with the South Dakota Chamber of Commerce and Industry. We rise in opposition to House Bill 1230. South Dakotans have a long, proud history of pulling their own weight and working together to solve statewide challenges. This fund is a prime example of how this collective spirit, businesses contributing a small amount to ensure a skilled workforce and a robust economy for everyone. HB 1230 shifts the burden of workforce development from a collective responsibility to a voluntary one. By allowing an opt-in for this fee, we risk dismantling the very programs that have made South Dakota's workforce competitive. This bill creates an equitable environment where some businesses pay into the system while others do not, yet they both reap the same statewide rewards. A business that does not opt in will still benefit from a more educated workforce, better infrastructure, and the general economic lift provided by these investments. This is fundamentally unfair to the businesses that continue to carry the load. South Dakota's success is built on the idea that we're all in this together. HB 1230 undermines that unity, and it hurts our communities. We urge a do not pass recommendation and appreciate the time. Thank you.
Thank you. Any other opponent testimony here in the room?
Better infrastructure and
Good afternoon, Mr. Chairman and members of the committee. Aaron Scheibe, an attorney here in Pierre. I'm the registered lobbyist for the South Dakota Science and Tech Authority. I want to talk to you just a little bit about why you should oppose this bill from the authority's perspective. Over the past 20 years, the authority has converted the former Homestake mine into the Sanford Underground Research Facility. It's a world-class leading science laboratory. It's the only deep underground lab in the entire United States. It has a $2 billion economic impact with 1,200 jobs annually statewide in South Dakota just this decade. It's realized an 18.5% return on the state money that's been invested in SURF. And every year through its K through 12 education and outreach programs, it works with 22,000 students and 400 teachers yearly. So not only is it world-class science, but it's workforce development here in South Dakota. The Future Fund helped make that happen. Without the Future Fund, we wouldn't have the Sanford Lab as it is today. I'm going to give you two examples. The first is attracting science and experiments to the lab. There was an investment in xenon gas made in the mid-2010s for what's called the Lux Zeppelin experiment. It's a dark matter experiment. There was a $6 million Future Fund investment made. It was matched dollar for dollar by 3 other South Dakota foundations, and it allowed us to attract this dark matter experiment to the state, a $250 million investment in the lab. So $6 million in future funds leveraged a $250 million investment and jobs that came with it. That wouldn't have happened without the Future Fund. In addition to that, the Homestake mine, as you can understand, is old. There's some aging infrastructure in the mine, and Future Fund has been absolutely critical in being able to address some of those deficiencies. There was a $6.5 million Future Fund investment spread over 2 different administrations, Governor Dugard and Governor Noem, that made the 26,000 square foot operations center a reality. That operations center provides maintenance facility, warehouse, and office space for the operations and engineering staff. This is in the process of expanding the lab to accommodate more experiments and working with the national laboratories to accommodate their own needs. So that investment provides the staff the tools and the space that they need to work safely. Without those investments, the lab would not be positioned where it is today, and as a result of that, we wouldn't have the jobs and economic opportunity that are coming from the lab out in that area and frankly around the state. So on that basis, I would urge you to oppose this bill and send it to the 41st day. Thank you.
Thank you, sir. We've got about 30 seconds left, so some brief Me Too's.
Mr. Chairman, members of the committee, Justin Smith, Greater Sioux Falls Chamber of Commerce. Our members are small and large businesses that have paid these investment fees for years. They consider the economic development activities funded through these investments extremely worthwhile. I am a lobbyist, it's true, but I'm literally the spokesman today for almost 2,000 South Dakota businesses who unite in opposition to this legislation and in favor of the programs and projects funded by their investment dollars. With limited time for opponents, there's not time for all these businesses to come up here and speak in opposition. Meanwhile, apart from the bill's prime sponsor, not a single business or South Dakotan is here asking for this bill, complaining about having to pay the investments, questioning the programs and projects funded, or asking for an opt-out like this bill. As the economy grows, South Dakota businesses grow and succeed. The system is working, and your hometown businesses are united in opposition to this bill. Thank you.
Thank you. We're out of time, so just have time left now for Me Too's.
Drew Duncan, South Dakota Biotech. Me too.
Thank you, Mr. Duncan.
Julie Johnson, speaking on my own behalf, been a major architect of this entire program. Please don't destroy it with this bill. Thank you.
Thank you. Any other opponent testimony here in the room? Okay, and online we have one person, Mark Lukey, if I said that right. Basically
Yes,
out of time,
apologies.
just time to introduce yourself and give us a brief Me Too, please.
Yeah, apologies for not being in person. Mark Lukey, CEO of South Dakota Innovation Partners, Hudak and MedGene. Me too.
Thank you, sir. Okay, seeing no other opponents, we will give the prime a chance for a rebuttal.
Well, I was going to see if Representative May wanted to come up. Is it okay if she comes up and joins me?
Yep,
This
that's
actually was more of her creation, and then I kind of took it on. But I would just, a few comments before Representative May comes. One thing that I found out when researching this is that excluded employers include public and nonprofit employers. So anybody who's a nonprofit that has thousands and thousands of businesses is excluded from this. Just a few comments. You know, this bill came about because of issues that have been brought up with the Future Fund. And I will just say today, one of the reasons that we brought the bill was because that many employers across the state do not even know that they're paying this. So I would say that's one of the things that was raised here. And it's not that employers are opposed to economic development. They are in business, for heaven's sake. They're all about economic development. It's about employers having a choice to contribute to this economic development or keeping the money to grow their own business. So with that, I'll turn it over to Representative May.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Representative Liz May, District 27. I just want to go through some of the opposition to the bill and try to walk you through what I think don't add up. So they claim this bill will defund workforce development. HB 1230 does not eliminate the program or prohibit participation. It simply shifts participation from automatic enrollment to a voluntary enrollment. Employers who see value may still opt in and contribute. This program still remains intact. This will reduce critical state revenue. That's another one of their oppositions. Government should not depend on revenue that flows primarily because employers may not realize they have a choice, me being one of them. If a program provides measurable value, employers will support it voluntarily. Transparent revenue is stronger and more sustainable than automatic collection. The opposition claims this weakens South Dakota workforce efforts. Employers are already, many of us, are already the backbone of workforce development. They invest daily in wages, training, apprenticeships, and retention. HB 1230 does not prevent those investments. It respects the fact that not all employers operate at the same scale or capacity. Number 4, the opposition always claims the administrative cost will be too high. We heard that. The Department of Labor already manages employer reporting and quarterly processing. Adding a clear opt-in or opt-out form is just a procedural adjustment, not a structural overhaul. Any administrative adjustment is minimal compared to the benefit of improved transparency and consent. Number 5, employers may opt in and out to gain the system. The bill establishes a quarter-basing timing for participation decisions. It's not saying they can jump in and out. Changes apply prospectively, not retroactively. There is no incentive or advantage to manipulation, only clarity in participation status. Number 6, I hear this. This sends the wrong message about economic development. On the contrary, this reinforces South Dakota's long-standing commitment to limited mandates and employer freedom. Economic strength comes from trust, transparency, and voluntary partnership, not an automatic enrollment. Number 7, if participation drops, programs will suffer. That's what we always hear. If the participation declines under a voluntary structure, that provides valuable feedback about communication structure or perceived value. Programs should earn participation. Accountability strengthens policy rather than weakens it. The department, I want to repeat this because the Department of Labor was here. The department already processes employer contribution data. The system already allows opt-out mechanisms, if you're smart enough to figure out the formula. This bill changes the default, not the structure. If the mandate is we must send notices, that's not a regulatory mandate. That's transparency. So I just hope that you can send this on. As a small business owner myself, if it hadn't been for my good friend in appropriations several years ago explaining this to me, I had no idea as a small business owner that I was even paying into this. And is there good things that come out of it? Absolutely. But it's a winner and loser program. They pick winners and they pick losers. And so anyway, I just hope that we can move this on and keep this conversation going. Thank you.
Thank you, Representative May. Okay, with that, we'll close the taking of public testimony and open it up to questions from the committee. Are there any questions from the committee? Representative Schaefbauer.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I know you missed me yesterday without all my questions, huh?
Yep.
I'm going to ask the question, and then I want a proponent and opponent, if I may, to answer the same question. Is that allowed?
The chair will give you some latitude
Okay,
with that.
thank you, Mr. Chair.
For a couple.
Okay. Like I said, for the proponents and the opponents, have you asked the small businesses of this state how they feel about volunteering into the future fund?
For proponent or opponent? This is for a proponent?
Proponent, and then I would like an opponent to answer the same question.
Representative May.
Thank Thank you, Mr. Chair. Representative Liz May, District 27. Repeat the question. I'm sorry, Representative.
No problem. Have you asked the small businesses how they feel about volunteering into this fund?
Representative May.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Okay, well, I am one of those small business owners, okay? I had no idea that I was paying into this. No idea. Until I became a legislator and came down here and got involved in the process and future funds and all of that. And through the appropriation process several years ago, I was told how the system works, how they're taking some of that money. And I was informed how I could get out of it. It's a very complicated formula. I can't even explain it to you. But as a small business owner myself, I can guarantee you that my people in my area had no idea that they could opt out of this program. So that's my answer.
Representative Schaefbauer, do you have an opponent in mind?
Mr. Backerney, please.
Mr. Chair.
Mr. Backerney, go ahead.
Am I good?
You good?
Thank you for the question, Representative. I'll answer it to the best of my ability. So I think it's almost impossible for anybody to ask every single employer, but I can tell you that 100% of our members would prefer to leave the program as is. We've had extensive discussions on this all the way over the summer. Now I have to qualify that telling you that we do not have every business as a member of EDPA. We don't, but we have a fair number. I will also tell you, I also own a number of small businesses, and I would prefer to leave it exactly the way it is.
Okay. Anything else? Okay. Any other questions? I might have one for Secretary Holtman. Maybe just to kind of piggyback on that last question, is there anything like, we've heard a couple times now today, I guess, like I had no idea I'm paying this fee. Where would an employer, he sees it on, just maybe you could describe where a current employer sees that he or she owes this fee and what notice they have that they have to pay it?
Mr. Chair, thank
Go
you for
ahead.
that question. Again, Marcia Holtman, Secretary of Labor. On the tax notices that are sent to every employer towards the end of the calendar year, it is clearly delineated what their unemployment insurance or reemployment assistance tax rate is. There's a line item for the future fee fund, and there's a line item for the admin fee. So all three of those are clearly broken out on the tax notice that is sent to each and every employer.
I have seen Department of Revenue do nice tax guides on property taxes, for example, that lay out how the levies work and what the need is, et cetera. Does the department have anything like that, to your knowledge, for this future fund fee, for guidance for employers to better understand why they're paying it, how much it is, and where it goes?
Mr. Chair, if I may, we are merely the collection mechanism. So in statute, it does outline what the rates are. And if I may, there were some comments made that employers can opt out right now, which makes it sound like there's a box you can check right now to either opt out or opt in. You can opt out depending on what your reserve ratio is for your account. So many employers have a higher reserve ratio, which allows them to have a 0% tax rate. So there is a way that either by choice or by not having layoffs that have drawn down on your account that you can achieve that amount that would allow you to have a 0 tax rate.
Okay, thank you. Any other questions from the committee? Okay, well then I'll move on to committee discussion or action. Representative Jameson.
Yeah, I would just make a comment that the system is working, and I would not recommend passing this bill.
Thank you. Any other discussion or action? Representative Gosh.
Move to pass.
Motion by Gosh, seconded by Hanson. Any discussion on the do pass motion? Any other? Yes, Representative Gosh.
And thank you, Mr.
Comments?
Chair. I do understand both sides of the issue on this. To me, I look at it a lot like the checkoff dollars. It's an opportunity for businesses to control what they get to spend their money on, and I would urge a yes vote. Thank you.
Representative Hanson, comments? Go ahead.
Well, I appreciate the work of the prime sponsor on this bill. I think it's a good one. It'd be very interesting to see what would happen if this bill does go into effect, how many employees or employers would choose to participate in this program. I've heard from many throughout the state concerns about having their money taken and used in some cases to bring in what amounts to competition for their own business, whether that's competition for good employees or competitions for their products themselves. So I think this should be a voluntary program, if anything. And so I support this bill. Thank you.
Any other discussion? Representative Overweg.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Well, as you all know, I've been working, this has always been kind of a thing for me, was the Future Fund. Personally, nothing against anybody that works. The Deputy Commissioner, Mr. Fiala, is a very respectful man, and I like working with him a lot in there. But he knows how I feel, too, about this. And, you know, I wonder sometimes if we're not just, I know they do a lot of small deals across the state. I give them credit for that. But sometimes I wonder if we're not just taxing the workers. I want to get that straight. It's not the employers. As an employee, my wage tax is horrible. And if I could pay less in my wage tax, I could give the money to my employees. So I get a little disgusted when people say this is employers paying. It's not. When it boils down, it's the wage earner who this money's coming out. And I wonder, are we doing it just to dress up Sioux Falls and Rapid City? You know, I've told this story before. My son-in-law and daughter just got their hind ends kicked when their business burns down in a small town of 600. I don't see people streaming there to help them. I don't see the state going there and doing this and doing that. But boy, if there's something in the big towns, let's do it. That bothers me. It really does. I mean, the way we fund this is just, it's almost ridiculous to me. How we just take money from people, give them nothing back for it, unless we drive to Sioux Falls, Mitchell, Rapid City, the big towns. That's where they're doing these projects. And some of them have to be there. You can't put projects into small towns. I get that. But it's starting to just really get me fed up that there's no overwatch on this. And it just doesn't stop. It just keeps going. So I'm going to support this bill. Thank you.
Thank you. Any other comments on the do pass motion? Okay. The motion is do pass on House Bill 1230. All those in favor will say aye. Those opposed, no. Secretary will please call the roll.
Representatives Baumüller.
No.
Emery.
No.
Gosh. Hanson.
Aye.
Healy.
No.
Heineman excused. Jamison.
No.
Lems.
Aye.
May. Aye. Reich excused. Schaefbauer.
Aye.
Overweg.
Aye.
Odenbach. Aye. 7 ayes, 4 nays, 2 excused.
After receiving a majority of members elect, the do pass motion passes. House Bill 1230 goes to the floor with a do pass recommendation. All right, moving on to our third item up for business, House Bill 1256. And we need to find Representative Goodwin, I believe, before we can proceed to that. Is he, oh, okay. We'll be in recess for just a second while we go and round him up. He's in another committee.
As South Dakota's public media network, SDPB serves everyone with transparency, integrity, and commitment to open access. Good, useful, and full of wonder. SDPB.
Okay, welcome back, everybody. We're going to skip ahead to our fourth bill because of legislators having to juggle tight schedules in other committees. So at this time, we're going to take up House Bill 1324, and then we'll get to 1256 last. Abolish the State Board of Elections, House Bill 1324, Representative Alward, 12 minutes aside. Welcome, Representative Alward.
Thank you, Mr. Chair, members of the committee. Representative Aaron Alward, District 6, Harrisburg, South Dakota. I'm going to be brief in my proponent testimony here. We have some other folks that'll get into some more detail that are pretty good. So just want to mention, though, the reason I'm behind this bill and I'm bringing this bill is the main point being we have a board that's, looking at things that you see within this bill, so many things that involve our elections. We put into place our State Board of Elections in 1974. There are many other states out there that have the Secretary of State's office that does it. I believe this would be better. It'd be more appropriate underneath the SOS office, underneath an elected representative rather than an appointed board. So again, that's the main reason. You're going to hear from some other proponents that'll get into some more detail, and I'll stand by. Thank you.
Thank you, Representative. Any additional proponent testimony for House Bill 1324? Okay, in the room, come on down.
Jed Ellsworth, Rapid City. Speaking for 1324 in full support of Mr. Alward's bill. I want to go back to something that was done on Mr. Jameson said on the last deal, that the system is working, and in this case it sure isn't, as far as I'm concerned. On the necessity side of it, I'm from Rapid City, Pennington County. Over the last 6 months, we have elections operated by unelected appointed officials, machines devoid of chain of custody and certifications, and elected officials disappeared and replaced with unqualified personnel. This bill is an attempt to clean up a lot of that. He's gone ahead and amended 12.19, 12.110, 12.121, and 12.17B2. On 12.19, I do want to mention that what is amended works, with the exception of that it's all stays with 126. 126.12 and 1.3 brings the director of the RLC in there. The director of the RLC through 126, the code people, are in a conflict of interest due to the fact that Westlaw is involved. Westlaw is an at-risk corporation that is on both sides of the fence on this. So that led to the problem that I think all of us realized with those subpoenas that were issued or supposedly issued this last quarter of 25. Those turned out to be fake. There is no subpoena. There was no documentation. I tried to get the documentation. There is none. I'm in support of this bill. It goes part of the way. We need more to fix our election system. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Ellsworth. Is there anybody else in the room? I do see we have 6 people waiting online, and we're about 4 minutes into a 12-minute deal. So the first online proponent is Leah Anderson. Ms. Anderson, can you hear me?
Yes, sir, I can.
Please.
I'm going to keep my proponent testimony very brief. This is Leah Anderson, Minnehaha County Auditor. I just want to share with you that I've been highly unimpressed at every Board of Elections meeting that I've been to. Most of the board, until just recently, we've got a couple new members, but most of the board is not adequately skilled to make the decisions that they're making when it comes to our elections. There are many times where I think if the auditors and the Secretary of State's office could just work together to establish rules, we would be way farther ahead. So I'm going to leave it brief because I know that you have some very skilled testimony online with Mr. Weibel and Cindy Meyer.
Thank you, Ms. Anderson. The next on the list is Linda Montgomery. Can you hear me?
Yes, Mr. Chair, Linda Montgomery from Fairview, South Dakota. I'll yield my time to Rick Weibel, please.
Okay, we'll get to him in just a second. Next on the list is Cindy Meyer.
Hello, can you hear me okay?
I can hear you. State your name and give us your testimony.
Okay, Cindy Meyer, Minnehaha County. Hello, Chair and Committee. I'm coming to you in support of House Bill 1324 to abolish the BOE, Board of Elections. Last week, I sat in on the Board of Elections meeting. This meeting was being conducted to certify the use of the ES&S electronic tabulating machines. The Board of Elections was to be present during the testing phase of the equipment held January 21st through the 23rd. None of the members of the Board of Elections were present for the testing, and none of the members were present for this meeting. This meeting was handled all via the Teams link. Christine Learkamp from the Secretary of State's office was present, however. The testing was set up for 3 days, allowing the public to be present. The public was present, but the members of the Board of Elections were not. The testing was to last for 3 days because, as stated by a previous Secretary of State staffer, Kia Warren, the testing is so complex it takes 3 days. This board, who wasn't even present, was satisfied with a day and a half of testing. They also never contacted the public of this shortened time frame. Many features of these electronic machines weren't thoroughly tested, but the Secretary of State's spokesman, Christine, said everything passed. The testing was to take place on January 21st through the 23rd, but I myself called the Secretary of State's office on January 20th, and the election staff was out of the office except for someone working remotely. I was told the election staff was out because they were testing equipment. Evidently on the 20th, they were testing components or working on test decks, which all testing needs to be done in front of the public. The peripheral equipment for the handicap accessible machines was not tested at all, along with other components of other systems. State statute says that all these things must be demonstrated to the board or their designee. There is nothing in writing stating that staff of the Secretary of State office is the designee for the Board of Elections. The Board of Elections never delegated authority to Christine to witness the testing of the machines and then speak on their behalf. Elections are considered critical infrastructure, and no one from the Board of Elections was present for the testing, and yet the board voted to certify the equipment. During the Board of Elections team phone call, when testimony was being given as to why the machine should not be certified, one of the board members was seen conducting side conversations and making faces and rolling their eyes during the whole presentation. That board member has absolutely no idea what they just agreed to. Also worth noting is that myself and others asked members of the Secretary of State office to be able to offer public comment before the vote to certify. We were all denied by Monet, Tom Diedrich, and the AG Grant Flynn. I was a witness to a formal filing of complaint documents with the Hughes County Clerk of Courts and also with the Hughes County Sheriff. These complaint documents were served to the board members on Thursday afternoon, along with an email copy of the complaint, so the board members would have time prior to the meeting to read it. Complaint documents were asking the judge for a preliminary injunction barring the Board of Elections from certifying the equipment or using the systems that violate the rules that the Board of Elections put into place. Administrative rules carry the same weight as the state statutes and are enforceable as such. The majority of the board voted to certify their equipment in violation of their own rules. These board members are unelected, unaccountable, and unqualified to make these decisions because elections are considered critical infrastructure of the United States. Jessica Palma, team lead for South Dakota Canvassing, is absent from testifying today because she was invited to Washington, D.C. to participate in a roundtable discussion with 30 other election fraud investigators from other states, all of whom have turned into experts in elections. Did anyone from the South Dakota Board of Elections get invited to that roundtable? This board needs to be abolished. Please do pass House Bill 1324. Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Meyer. Well, we now have about a couple minutes left and 3 minutes or 3 folks still wanting to talk. Cindy Cook, you're next. About 3 minutes left. Can you hear me? Cindy Cook.
Good afternoon. Yes, good afternoon, Mr. Chair and committee. This is Cindy Cook, Pennington County. And I would just like to say, me too, I agree with everything Cindy Meyer just said. And I would like to give my time to Rick Weibel.
Okay,
Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Cook. Next up, Rick Weibel. Take it away.
Thank you, Chair. Thank you, committee members. My name is Rick Weibel from Elkton, South Dakota, representing myself, and I'm also supporting a due pass on House Bill 1324. If we take a step back, let's look at what the rights and responsibilities here are. We know from the U.S. Constitution, you, the legislature, are given directly the authority under Article 1, Section 4, Clause 1. The times, place, and manner of holding the elections for senators and representatives shall be prescribed in each state by the legislature. Well, we have kind of gone astray from that. What's interesting is that 31 states still use a Secretary of State to handle their elections without a state board of elections. 10 states actually use a state board of elections versus having a Secretary of State. 9 states, which we're part of, have a mix between an SOS and a state board of elections. However, 2 of us states actually limit the role of the state board of elections, us and Louisiana, to where it's more lightly configured and not a whole lot of enforcement in there. And so it's actually created problems in my view. What's interesting is that every testifier is correct. Even talking with some members of the state board of elections, they admit they're not technical like I am. They don't understand the election rules. They don't play in all of the laws. They don't understand where there are vulnerabilities with the systems. And they don't meet frequently enough. They're not educated enough. They're not trained by ES&S. There's a lot of gaps there in the system. They don't understand the voluntary voting system guidelines, the rules set by the United States Election Assistance Commission. But let's go through another area. When we look at what Cindy Meyer has said, she's absolutely correct. When we look at the state law of 1217B-2, in one of the sentences there, it says, no system may be approved unless the system fulfills the requirements as established by the State Board of Elections. Well, that's interesting because what happened, and we see in the administrative rule 5020902, it specifically states in one of the sentences, the vendor shall give written notice to the State Board of Elections that it fulfills the requirements of the EAC 2015 voting system standards. Well, I was there at the meeting and there was no notice presented. We also know from the EAC's website that that system was never certified to 2015. Actually, no system in the United States has ever been certified to 2015. So the real question here is, are you willing to allow the State Board of Elections to violate your law, their rules, to allow this bypass of a system to be approved and purchased? This is a very scary situation that we're in, and we cannot allow this to go forward because this corrupts the laws within the state of South Dakota. Currently, there is no provision for the State Board of Elections to reverse course. In testimony there at the State Board of Elections, I offered them a solution to basically recall that vote and basically take corrective action. I stood by for questions for them to ask in a general area. Nobody took me up on the offer to actually slow walk this before they adjourned the meeting. And that's unfortunate because the reality is that this puts us in a very potential scary situation under federal law. Under the False Claims Act, They're claiming that this system is approved, but not quite. And the problem with that is if they use federal dollars, the state of South Dakota is at risk of violating federal law if we use any HAVA dollars to purchase any future equipment under this ES&S 6.5.0.0 system. And there's even another false claim within the documentation by the Secretary of State's office saying that certain pieces of equipment will actually be certified to the new 2.0 standard. Now, it's true that ES&S has submitted a new voting system. They've started the application, but there's no listing at all on the website of the EAC as to what that equipment is. So that is another false claim statement for new equipment that auditors and the state could be purchasing that is affront to federal law. I will stand by for additional questions that you may or may not have. Thank you so much.
Thank you. We are out of time, way past time. There's one other proponent listed here. If you'd like to just give a brief me too. Dale Bussey, however, if I said it wrong, I'm sorry. Are you there, sir? Just to give a me too.
That's correct. I'm Dale Boos, Meade County, South Dakota, and I'd like to give a me too for this House bill. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. Well, with that, we'll close the proponent testimony. Ask if there are any opponents here in the room. We were working for 12 minutes aside. We went over, so we'll give a little latitude on the opponents if we have to. Go ahead.
Thank you, Mr. Chair and committee members. Christine Lehrkramp, Director of the Division of Elections in the Secretary of State's office. While this bill that is 86 sections and 40 pages long aims to abolish the State Board of Elections, it does not remove references to the board and its rulemaking authority outside of Titles 2 and Title 12. Even if this bill passes, the State Board of Elections will still be given rulemaking authority by sections located in Title 6, Title 9, Title 13, Title 46A, and Title 49, among others, which will undoubtedly put the Secretary of State's office in a difficult position if changes ever need to be made in the future. At the very least, this bill is incomplete and should be sent to the 41st day. Beyond abolishing the State Board of Elections and reassigning its duties to the Secretary of State's office, this bill makes unnecessary and substantive changes to existing statutes. For example, this bill amends SDCL 12-1-21 and 12-1-22, which require that the Secretary of State resolve HAVA complaints in accordance with the contested case law provisions in SDCL Chapter 1-26 within 14 days, down from the 90 days that is currently in law. If the Secretary of State's office fails to resolve the complaint within 40 days, then an arbitrator must be appointed by the Circuit Court and resolve the complaint within 14 days, down from the 60 days that they currently have in law. This timeline is not only unrealistic, but also impossible to follow, especially as contested case proceedings may evolve into formal litigation. Under SDCL 1-26-30.1, contested cases must either be resolved within a period of 30 days, or the agency tasked with resolving it may issue an order granting up to 60 additional days to resolve the case. With that in mind, this bill will require the Secretary of State's office to resolve contested cases in half the time given to a regular contested case and without any of the flexibility granted to other agencies under SDCL 1-26-30.1. As a final example, if you look at Section 42 of this bill, it is a sweeping change of election law and should be labeled as such. This section goes beyond abolishing the Board of Elections. Currently, you have the right to undervote a ballot. And undervote means that if it's a vote for two and you want to vote for one, you can. An undervote could also mean if you don't want to vote a contest at all, you don't need to. and you may overvote if you choose. If it's a vote for one and you want to fill the ovals and vote for two people, that's your option as well as a voter. Or you may put a blank ballot in the ballot box. If you get there and you decide you want to vote for any contest, you don't have to. It's not required. The changes in Section 42 take away your right as a voter to vote the way you want. Instead, the ballot will be returned to you as the voter to fix your error. If the voter undervoted or overvoted or left the ballot blank. But what is the error that the voter made? If they made that choice to vote it over or under or didn't vote at all, why is that considered an error that needs to return the ballot to the voter? As ballots are tabulated at the auditor's office, the tabulator will be programmed to outstack these ballots, and a resolution board will then determine how you as the voter meant to vote. Do you want someone else to decide how you meant to vote, even though you voted exactly how you meant to? Well, with this legislation, there is a resolution board who could actually change your vote. Those ballots will go to the resolution board to redo. With this bill, what this bill aims to do is significantly expand the power and authority of the Secretary of State's office by removing a key opportunity for county auditors and regular citizens to shape the election process. At a time when there is an emphasis on expanding citizen oversight, should the opposite be done? Considering these changes, as well as the countless others that we simply don't have time to list, this bill goes beyond the intention stated in its title, and we respectfully ask that you send HB 1324 to the 41st day. Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Lehrkamp. Is there any other opponent testimony here in the room today? We're about 5.5 minutes into our 12. Welcome.
I have a judge tell me that every once in a while too, because I always forget to hit that button. Chairman, members of the committee, thank you. My name is Austin Hoffman. I am the McPherson County State's Attorney. I'm on the Open Meetings Commission Task Force, as well as the Board of Elections. I had an outline put together of a letter that I had written and emailed this committee last night. But before the hearing today, when you have a former Attorney General tell you that he was going to come up here and read your letter, if you weren't here, it's probably not the worst idea to just read the letter. So that's ultimately what I'm going to be doing. House Bill 1324 has some fairly significant legal flaws. Some of them you just heard. But these flaws are detrimental to the voting process in South Dakota. Looking first at Section 6, that would amend or get rid of several key definitions in SDCL 12-1-3. If those are gone, it leaves several key words either with multiple definitions, undefined, and several other statutes that are simply inoperable. Ballot question committee is one of these definitions. Its current definition is defined by referencing another definition found in 12-27-1. However, House Bill 1324 would create a new definition under 12-1-3. That new definition is different than the current definition. It removes the word entity for ballot question committee. Most ballot question committees in South Dakota, if not all of them, are an entity. That will be a problem. Section 6 removes the definition for election found in 12-1-3. Now, election is also defined later in codified law under 12-27-1. However, it is a different definition that is in association with campaign finance. It would be unclear whether the campaign finance definition of election would be overseeing everything or simply under the campaign finance section as it is now. Section 6 also removes the definition of elector, and it replaces it with qualified elector. Might not seem like a big deal on its face. However, the term elector is still found in 61 other statutes and multiple places in our state's constitution. Therefore, we would have at least 61 other statutes, as well as multiple places in our current South Dakota Constitution that have a term that is undefined. The definition for poll book or poll list would remove poll list from that definition. That definition, or the word poll list, is found in at least 4 statutes, leaving those 4 statutes with a key term that is, again, undefined. Definition for vote center would also be removed. What's interesting about this one is that while vote center, the definition for it is gone, the statute giving jurisdictions the right to use vote centers, 12-14-17, would remain in place. So jurisdictions could use vote centers, they just wouldn't know what they are. Section 13 is particularly concerning. This adds a new section of law that states, and I'm paraphrasing here, the auditor of a county must provide an interpreter if notified by the Secretary of State, and some emphasis here, in accordance with Section 9 of this act. Section 9 of this act deals with the Secretary of State giving the legislature notice of possible changes to election law and does not deal with the Secretary of State giving notice to a county auditor. Right out of the gate, Section 9 is Section 13 is inoperable as it's written. Section 13 also only provides interpreters that can speak both the Sioux language and the English language. However, Section 13 could be applicable to other single language minorities. If you look at 1B under that section, it could easily be applicable to Spanish speakers. However, if it is applicable to Spanish speakers, they are then only given a Sioux interpreter. There's obviously some issues there. Section 14 would give the Secretary of State's office rulemaking authority for the process by which the Secretary notifies a county that the county meets the requirements of Section 8 of this act and must provide interpreters. Section 8 of this act is an amendment to SDCL 12-1-9.1, and that deals with ranking candidates and the tabulation of votes. Section 14 is inoperable as it is written. There are 86 sections of this bill. The issues I just outlined are only found in the first 14. I could go on, but there's more to talk about. The main purpose of House Bill 1324 is to eliminate the South Dakota Board of Elections. This would ultimately give full rulemaking authority to the South Dakota Secretary of State. I can understand if lawmakers or voters have issues with some of the decisions made by the Board of Elections. However, getting rid of that board and placing full rulemaking authority in the hands of one person goes against the very core of the democratic process. We would no longer have public meetings for citizens to give input on rules regarding one of the most important governmental functions in our country. Public participation in the decision-making process would be gone. The ability of voters to influence governmental policy and voting would be a thing of the past. These are all things we currently have. There is no one person who currently has a dictatorship over how elections are run in our state. The Board of Elections, as you may know, is currently made up of 7 people. The Secretary of State has a seat on that board. The Speaker of the House appoints 2 people to that board. The House Majority Leader, House Minority Leader, Senate Majority Leader, and Senate Minority Leader all appoint 1 person. Each board member comes from a different walk of life and a different perspective on these issues. This ensures that voters from every corner of society can be heard, as well as voters from both sides of the aisle. Getting rid of this system would leave an open ear to only those who are friendly to a single elected official in one of the top offices in the state of South Dakota. 2 seats on the board turn over every odd number year. 1 seat on the board turns over every even numbered year. If legislative leadership is not happy with their respective appointee, when that appointee's term is up, they have the option of putting somebody else on that board. My term started in 2025. If the Senate Majority Leader is not happy with me in 3 years, I'm gone. It's somebody else in my place. There is accountability there. Now, the Republican candidate for Secretary of State is nominated at the South Dakota Republican Party Convention by delegates from across the state of South Dakota. While these numbers of delegates can vary, it's almost always less than 1,000 people that are voting on this. The current estimated population of South Dakota is somewhere around 935,000 people. The Secretary of State's office has been held by a Republican for the last 47 years. Lorna Herseth was the last Democrat to hold this office from 1973 to 1975. This means, if history holds true into the future, the Secretary of State, the one person having full rulemaking authority over elections, will be chosen by around 0.1% of the population of South Dakota.
Mr. Hoffman, I would just let you know we're way past time and we still have 3 people left who want to testify online. Just letting you know.
I got 1 sentence left.
Make it quick.
Got it. Our political system is successful when bridges are built and not burned down. This bill burns bridges. For that reason, I ask you to table this bill and move on. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Hoffman. Anybody else in the room want to offer a brief me too? Because we are out of time. We got a committee that's got questions, got to discuss, and another bill to hear.
Ellie Bailey, registered lobbyist for the South Dakota Advocacy Network for Women, in opposition to this bill. Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Bailey. Anybody else in the room for a me too? Okay, anybody else online? First one I have listed for some brief me toos here is Lindley Howard. Can you hear me, Miss Howard?
Yes, I can, Mr. Chair. Lindley Howard, the McPherson County Auditor, and me too. Thank you.
Thank you, Miss Howard. Next up, Brenda Magruder. Can you hear me, Miss Magruder?
Yes, Chairman, I can. This is Brenda Magruder, the Lawrence County Auditor, and I just wanted to point out one other section that Mr. Hoffman did not bring up, and that is Section 29, requiring us to have a separate ballot for the precinct committee men and women, which we just spent all last year being mandated to combine our elections. And this section now is telling us we have to have a separate ballot for that. So I'm just asking that you please defer this to the 41st day. Thank you.
Thank you. And our final opponent for a brief me too is Kent Alberty. Can you hear me, Kent Alberty?
Yes, I can hear you. Can you hear me?
I can. State your name and state your me too, please.
Kent Alberty, Sioux Falls, me too. Mr. Hoffman spoke very eloquently for my opinion. Thank you.
Thank you, sir. Okay, after closing up the opponents, we'll give the prime a chance for a brief rebuttal.
Mr. Chair, I'm going to refer over to Mr. Weibel.
Mr. Weibel, the brief rebuttal is in your camp. Go ahead.
Thank you, Chair. Thank you, committee members. I still support a due pass on this. There's some inconsistencies that were brought up by the opponents. First, let me address the changes to the timeline. Because we no longer would have a state board of elections, we no longer need 90 days. We would reduce it down to 14 days for HAVA complaints. And the main reason for that is because of federal law and when it comes to safe harbor. Usually that's right around December 8th to be able to have any contests that deal with a federal election, such as a president, a congressional, or a U.S. Senate race. We have been out of alignment compared to other states, and that's why we need to have these contests brought down much faster, similar in alignment to other states that are there. In looking at sweeping law changes for 42, that's not quite true. If you look at that actual section, it is actually about a precinct-based tabulator where the voter would actually have total control, where they're the ones that insert the ballot, and it would alarm them if there is an error on the ballot, giving that voter a chance to re-vote that ballot. That doesn't typically happen in South Dakota, but there are a few counties that are looking for that move forward, which happens in Minnesota. So this is based upon what Minnesota law has and other precinct-based states. Then when we look at Section 6 in regards to the definitions, A lot of those definitions are already in federal law. We don't need to repeat them here. And there are also some of those definitions already in the Constitution that it's understood. And so we needed to clean that up to get that done. And that was basically done by the LRC. And then in regards to Section 13, he's incorrect in the way that he is interpreting that in regards to having interpreters. If you reread that, there are population requirements that are already federally required. So this puts us in alignment with federal law. Then looking at Section 8, these are only changes here that are not substantive. They are incorrect in looking at. Section 29 is ensuring that we have separate ballots for partisan elections, and that's where a lot of folks forget that they will actually put the same party in the primary elections on the same piece of paper. This is to remind them that when you have precinct elections that you need to precinct committee men and women, you can't have Democrats and Republicans on the same ballot. It creates the confusion. With that, I'll stand by for any additional questions. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Mr. Weibel. With that, we'll close the taking of public testimony and open it up to questions from the committee. Questions from the committee. Representative Lems.
All right, could I call somebody that's in the audience? Kristen Mitsuda? Welcome. Could you just please state your name? Sorry.
Thank you. I'm Kristen Matsuda. I'm the newest member appointed to the Board of Elections. In the interest of full disclosure, I am acquainted with Ms. Lems. I am an unpaid volunteer for the Hansen for Governor campaign. I consider Mr. Odenbach a dear friend. I've contributed to their campaigns a couple times. With that, I am not testifying for or against the bill, but since my recent experience regarding the now infamous Friday the 13th hearing, there are two problems that I am aware of, and I need everybody to hear what they are, and I don't think it'll be
Ms.
solved.
Matsuda?
Yes.
Can I stop you 1 second? We can maybe get
Yeah.
the question
I
in from
just-
Representative Lems first, and then you can be
I'm so
responsive
sorry.
to her
Here
question.
I'm sorry.
Mr. Chair?
Go ahead.
All right, so I happened to tune in the other day and listen to the Board of Elections, the certification. And so one of the questions that I had as I was listening, it seemed to me there was a vote that was taken, but then there was discussion, or it was opened up for questions after the vote. Is that correct?
That is correct.
Ms. Matsuda,
Yes, sir.
go ahead.
Thank you. My apologies for missing the protocol. You bring up one of the 2 points that I wanted to mention to this honorable body, and thank you for letting me testify, by the way. The first problem that you bring up is the virtual lack of procedural due process, and I did not sign up to be a participant in that. As somebody else online mentioned, when you're dealing with fundamental rights or the impinging on somebody's property rights, you need to, as an administrative body or a legislative body, you need to provide two things: notice and an opportunity to be heard. The opportunity to be heard is not performative. It's not something that you could put at the beginning of a meeting or the end of a meeting. The purpose of a meaningful opportunity to be heard means that the public can participate and offer their input and offer their ideas and offer their objections, and that the presumably neutral body will contemplate that in their deliberations before they render a decision. When I saw the agenda for the Friday the 13th meeting, I noticed that the comments were after the certification. I am the only person who objected to the agenda for that very reason.
Any follow-up, Representative Lems? Go ahead.
So did anybody actually sign the certification?
No.
Okay.
Honestly, it looked like it was, I couldn't tell how it was prepared. I don't know who prepared it. It was elicited during testimony that some of the information came, I guess, third hand through perhaps the literature of ES&S. It would have made me much more comfortable to see an actual signature and a name attached to the report, some accountability.
Any follow-up? Okay. Thank you. Any other questions from the committee for anybody? Okay, Representative Schaefbauer.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. For Rick Weibel, please.
Mr. Weibel, are you still online and can you still hear us? Ms.
Yes,
Messud,
Mr.
if you
Chair.
could turn that mic off and then we're good. Thank you. Okay, go ahead, Representative Schaefbauer.
Mr. Weibel, how long have you been studying election items?
Mr. Weibel.
Mr. Chair, I've been studying elections really since 2008, starting in Minnesota. Franken, a U.S. Senate race, and then 2016 in Minnesota regarding poll pads, and then continued in South Dakota and Minnesota in the 2020 election. And I have vast experience and case history as well.
Follow up? Rep. Schaefbauer.
So can you tell me how many states have the Board of Elections? And it's a two-part question. How well they operate?
So, Mr. Chair?
Go ahead.
10 states have a board that don't have a Secretary of State, and then another 9 states have a board with a Secretary of State, so 19.
Follow up? Nope. Okay. Any other questions from the committee? Okay, hearing nothing else, I'll turn to committee discussion and/or action. Discussion or action on House Bill 1324. Representative Jameson.
Yeah, there's a lot of conflicts here in this bill that seem to be a problem. But just the takeaway from it is really just as part of a discussion is when the Secretary of State, who is being asked to take over this role, points out errors and problems with the bill, it just appears that there wasn't a collaboration of sorts put together to help or bridge this over or to make a change. And it just appears as though this bill is just clearly not ready. That's all I'd like to say.
Thank you. Representative Overweg.
I move 41st day.
Motion by Overweg, second by Baumüller for 41st day. Is there any comments on that motion?
Well, I appreciate the good representative taking this to us, but it just, to echo kind of what the other representative said, it just doesn't feel like it's ready or that the state's ready to make this big move right now.
Thank you. Any other comments on the 41st day motion? Okay. Then hearing none, the motion is to send House Bill 1324 to the 41st day. All those in favor will say aye. Those opposed, no. The Secretary will please call the roll.
Representative Baumüller.
Aye.
Emery.
Aye.
Gosh. Aye. Hanson. Aye. Healy.
Aye.
Heineman excused. Jameson.
Aye.
Lems.
Aye.
May.
Aye.
Reich.
Aye.
Schaefbauer.
Aye.
Overweg.
Aye.
Otenbach. Aye. 12 ayes, 1 excused.
Thank you, Madam Secretary. After receiving a majority of members-elect, the 41st day motion passes. House Bill 1324 is sent to the 41st day, which moves us along to our final item up today, which is House Bill 1256, require the promulgation of rules related to accessing the Capitol complex and providing electronic card access to Capitol Access Pass holders. We will do 12 minutes aside like everything else if we need it. Proponent testimony. Welcome, Representative Goodwin.
Welcome, Mr. Chair, members of the committee. I'm Representative Tim Goodwin from District 30. I wish to withdraw this bill.
Okay, is there a motion to table? Motion by Jameson, seconded by Lems to table. This is a non-debatable motion, so the clerk will please call the roll. All in favor say aye. Those opposed, no.
Representative Baumüller.
Aye.
Emery.
Aye.
Gosh.
No.
Hanson.
Aye.
Healy.
Aye.
Heineman excused. Jameson.
Aye.
Lems. May.
Aye.
Reich. Schaefbauer. Overweg.
Aye.
Otenbach.
Aye.
11 ayes, 1 nay, 1 excused.
Thank you, Madam Secretary. After receiving a majority of members-elect, the motion to table passes. House Bill 1256 is tabled. that will end today's agenda. So I would entertain a motion to adjourn.
Move
Motion
dismissal.
by Overweg, seconded by Healy to adjourn. All in favor say aye. Aye. Those opposed, no. We are adjourned.
When South Dakotans need reliable information, SDPB is there providing updates and coverage that keep our communities safe and connected. Good, useful, and full of wonder. SDPB. SDPB celebrates South Dakota's student athletes with live coverage of SDHSAA state championships, sharing the excitement of hometown heroes. SDPB. Good, useful, and full of wonder. From choir to debate to theater, SDPB shines a spotlight on South Dakota's talented students through SDHSAA All-State Fine Arts programming. Good, useful, and full of wonder. SDPB. Every day, SDPB connects South Dakotans with stories that inform, inspire, and bring us together. SDPB, good, useful, and full of wonder. SDPB is your home for fact-based journalism, connecting South Dakotans with news they can trust and stories that matter. Good, useful, and full of wonder. SDPB.